To begin our week, I'd like to introduce you to the sister of one of our most accomplished actresses. Please welcome Blanche Boroff. Hi, Blanche. I am just fine. You have a very special sister.
Yes, I do.
What was it like growing up with her?
Well, growing up with Shelley Winters was utterly unpredictable.
As it still is today.
And it still is today.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Shelley Winters. Would have been terrific if you come in the other door.
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
I know you were. All this and more in today's edition of Our Magazine. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. What a week. I'm here with Shelley Winters and her sister, Blanche Boroff. I think everybody looks forward to having a new baby in the house. And I don't think you were any exception. You're just a couple of years older than Shelley. And it's eagerly anticipated, but once it arrives, as you say, it's very unpredictable. What was it like growing up with Shelley?
Well, I must say that as we were growing up, when we were very little, I was always figuring out how to lose her. True. I would lock her up in closets and play games where she got tied to a tree and disappeared.
Yes, my mother worked sometimes, and she had to take care of me. And we're just 4 years difference. And, you know, I was always, I couldn't say Blanche, I'd say Bappy. And I was always saying, Bappy, Bappy, and I wanted to be with the big girls, you know? And to this day, I think she tries to get rid of me. Every now and then.
As a matter of fact, when your family, your dad wanted to move to New York, when the decision was announced, and it was announced everybody was going, didn't you say, you mean we got to take her?
Yes.
No, she said, you mean we're going to take her with us?
Yeah.
She thought I was just for St. Louis.
But that's true. Whether you initiated it or whatever, you were still responsible for her, weren't you?
Oh, yes. And I think it's true today.
Yes,
really?
It is. Yes. She lives upstairs. We have a duplex, and we take care of each other, though, I think now. And during the teen years, we weren't as close, up till the teens, because that's a big difference, you know. But then when we got older and got married and divorced. Well, Blanche became a widow first. You know, Blanche was in the theater. She's a nurse, but for a long time, she ran the first circle theater in this country. It was the Circle Theater on Gower.
Circle meaning in the round?
In the round, the first in the round theater. Her husband, George Boroff, ran it, and they would only do new plays, as if they were millionaires, of course, you know, new plays by new playwrights. But Norman Lear had his first play done there, and they did a play called Once Upon a Tailor, which was Shillelagh, and was the forerunner of Fiddler on the Roof, An Act of Love, and Girl on the Via Flaminia, and many great writers. They did their plays first there.
Your father was a businessman, and the reason I'm going to ask this question is the cause and effect interests me very much. And I know that there was his business burned down, and he was, to this day, he was unjustly committed or convicted of arson.
Gary, you've just touched on a very sore subject. My sister did not want me to put that in the book. We had a big fight about that. That was in my book. And I feel that
it troubled both of you.
Yeah. Yes, it was very traumatic. And when she read it in the galley, she said, my daughter doesn't know about it. I never told my husband about it. Why are you putting it in the book? And the reason I put it in the book was that I feel that in our society now, many people go around with secret stigmas or imaginary stigmas, and it certainly destroyed my father's life. He was only in prison for a year, but he was stabbed. And when he came out, he sort of sat in an old wine-colored bathrobe for 2 hours. He couldn't even look for a job. He felt that everybody thought he was a criminal.
How old were you two at this time?
Well, I was my teens, and
I was about 10.
Yeah.
See, that's such an important time for a young girl to have a father.
It was a terrible time.
I know, she would never go up. He was in Sing Sing, and I went there once with my mother, And in those days, they were behind a visitor, a wire screen, and it seemed like he was in a cage, like an animal, and I got hysterical. It was, till this day, it's a terrible trauma for me to even see an animal in a cage. I can't go to the zoo.
Yes.
And it was awful. And I always had the feeling that they sent my young father to prison, and they sent back a different man, an old, angry man. Of course it was the same, but, you know, children, he was only gone a year, but it seemed a long, long time, because not only did he go away, but my mother had to work.
It changes the whole...
And my sister was going to Jamaica High School, and she would leave 6 o'clock in the morning. We lived in Brooklyn. She spent her youth on the subways, I think. She would leave the house and do her homework about an hour away. She had to travel an hour. So I was left alone. I didn't know where everybody went. And I had a whole imaginary life that I developed because my real life was just terrible.
So it certainly had an effect on both of you, as well as your mom.
Our mother was amazing, though. She didn't let anything stop her. She saw every judge, every official that she could find, and spent every dime that we had to free my father and get a new trial.
Right.
A new trial and conviction reversed.
Did that ever happen?
Oh,
yes.
It did.
Yes, a year later, and it was completely
Our
reversed.
mother was a role model to us.
The sequel, or part 2. Are you two working together on that?
Well, she does the research for
I do
me.
the research on the books,
And
oh,
she finds the pictures, but I do the actual writing, and we have arguments about that. I don't let her see it until the whole thing's written, because she says, leave that out.
And I want you to know she does the writing. People seem to think that someone helps her. She really does it. It's her.
Nobody else could write that, Blanche.
Or speak the way Shelley speaks.
I think the public knows that I've been on so many talk shows that they can, you know, even my editor wanted to fix some of the grammar and make it more interesting, and he said something about my sister came out. My sister emerged from the bathroom, and he rewrote it, my editor, and I said, Ellis, my sister never emerged from the bathroom. She came out. And that's how I...
Well, I'm glad you came out to see us today. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Blanche,
Very nice meeting you.
thank you. Tomorrow we'll continue with Latka Gravis of Taxi, Andy Kaufman, along with his brother and sister. Coming up next, Pat Mitchell takes us to a community that's proud of its school for very personal reasons.